Chill here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Venus, our Mercury day, and Venus is 15 degrees Scorpio. The Moon is 20 degrees Scorpio, applying to conjoin Black Moon Lilith, and then into the new Moon. Mars is conjoining Antares, ascendant ruled by Mercury, which is opposing Uranus from Scorpio at 29 degrees Scorpio, midheaven 0 degree Pisces, and ruled by Jupiter, that's retrograde, conjoining Procyon in Cancer. I want to wish good health to Rhonda, and she's having hepatitis A because of a polluted environment, particularly polluted water. She's basically broadcasting from Gaza, and um, that prompted me to record this video because I haven't been following through and through on what is happening to Gaza. Those of you who've been watching my channel know that even before 7th of October, I tended to the missing people and the topic of ritual abuse, or as I said, it's not a ritual abuse, it's an abuse of ritual, because I come from astrology, I come from the topic of astrological talismans, um, and so when the 7th of October were embarked, my coping mechanism was to talk about defunding classified projects, um, which is causing the dark code, um, to commit also atrocities around the world, to see the local conflict as a global issue. And even when it came to the missing people or kidnapped people in Israel, I tended to it from the perspective of the children nobody came to save, namely the children that were kidnapped to the trafficking rings and so on and so forth. So that was kind of my coping mechanism for the 2 years that I wasn't even able to say the word genocide, even though I think it was 2019 where there was an extreme ritual attack, um, kidnapping of people, torturing of scientists, psychic torture, no touch torture. Um, and there was definitely something that came up with war with Iran. Um, Shilumim, a compensation for Palestinians. Um, and something of that sort of people that it would be better for people to have no ID. I guess that referred to the digital ID. When I was in Netherlands, one night homeless in the street, before I managed to get a shelter, I saw like a lot of horrors coming too, which I guess would be the war in Ukraine and the refugees as well. Um, the possibility of a code orange, and I don't mean the weather, and many things. But it also seemed like those that were trying to get my attention to these things were human traffickers as well. So I don't know, okay, what was I channeling or what was going on there. I was a scientist that took a break from academia, following human trafficking in academia, and the fact that I looked into the body-mind question in the medicines, and I felt that the human trafficking used what I now know as Aleister Crowley occultism, but back then I did not have any concept or wording for that, and I would be required to present my thesis proposal or defend my thesis in terms that are completely scientifically impossible. Um, One could say that my thesis was analogous um, um, to the beginning of chaos theory in the 60s, which I would need to check with myself because uh, Aries and Uranus were conjoining. Okay, when I wrote my thesis proposal, and then my satire that I thought it was about officers, but used the symbol of something else, and actually tended to the Aleister Crowley basically wrote a satire about human trafficking. Now, good health to Randa, and Randa's video kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back. Um, it's the same we have in the Middle East, and I have been seeing a lot of the 2030 agenda being implemented in Palestine. Now, if COVID, if in COVID Israel was the Pfizer lab rats, okay, and there's a lot of MK Ultra going on here and so on, but and MK Ultra, but definitely 7th October was an embarking, before Israel even responded, I say, hey, we are Maui. And indeed, there may or may not have been use of laser in the Nova party, but what I feel is happening in Palestine um, is an implementation of 2030 agenda. And Randa's post was simply the straw that broke the camel's back, because during the war, let's begin with during the war, things that popped up on certain social medias um, had to do with um, the futuristic cities presented as a peaceful solution with Israel by Palestinians, okay? And the um, after the big genocide, the implementation of cashless society and coming up with digital, and I have to say, quite some Palestinians were joining. you know, they were copying Israel for the things that um, are entrapping Israel. Okay, like I know Israel is a high tech nation and so on. All the cameras in the world and the satellites don't find the pandemic of missing people. Okay, here in Israel, not really. The idea of safe cities is not really coming to fruition. Um, and the cashless society, or bringing about the cashless society or digital currency in Palestine. So we see again how the shock doctrine, okay, basically is implemented in Palestine to bring about this new world order. Um, and stuff people into what is predicted to be some sort of 15-minute cities, and have the framing of the argument as whether people have money or not to live in the 15-minute cities, and not really talking about the digital prison effect of smart houses that are also surveilling, and all kinds of techniques that are targeting individuals. Another thing that now is happening is the water pollution, which is supposed to be the embargo of people having to pay more for the water, or having to pay for the water, even in regions where people didn't have to. I know that there was an issue of Israel preventing access to water in some regions of the West Bank. I don't know how much it was prevalent in Palestine. Israel would even cut the water off from people who didn't pay the water bill in Israel. Okay, so this is something. I mean, let's talk about the fact that Israel is doing that to Israelis. That's Nazi. I can say that this is Nazi, right? It's the rights of Israeli civilians to have water. That, like, not to have, like, to cut the water for people that didn't pay the water bill is Nazi. I know Americans are probably like, hey, but they do this to us too. And I'm like, yeah, that's also Nazi. So, but the topic of water pollution is twofold. One, to make people pay for the water. Two, to basically, what happens is when the people don't have exposure to not polluted water. And by the way, there's absolutely no reason that the Gaza water would be polluted. Okay, there wasn't any nuclear site in Gaza that we don't know of, right? So what would it be polluted with? You know these straws that filter the water? We are having a war in 2025. Okay, Romania has stealth flights to Palestine to take people from Palestine to Romania. I don't know to what purpose or what happens with these people, but it's definitely done under the title of humanitarian aid. I assume that it is that if Israel and the West allow it, then they probably don't suffer. Okay. Now, another thing that is happening is that the liver disease, hepatitis. Okay, and I don't know exactly the difference between hepatitis A and B on the spot, um, but this is basically liver toxicity, and that prompts um, a series of patient sovereignty violations, which means that even the shilumim or compensation that Israel probably will have to pay to Palestine, okay, that will be funneled back into the system through medical aid. Now, this is something that every citizen of the world should be watching, because this is the how about Agenda 2030 is supposed to be implemented. Now, all the while, nobody has pity for Israel. I mean, they're the Nazis in the story. Israeli cities and villages are not really able to contain the people that, following the war, were evacuated. They don't have the ability to work. Okay, they've been through a war. They can't make the money that they were able to make before the war, and I'm being very tender. They don't have housing. The government didn't pay to the hotels that were hosting them either. Most of them are dependent on government aid that is not indefinite. And there are campaigns to stalk the people that rely on government aid while the entire country needs government. There isn't a person during this time that is faking it, okay? And this is a way to isolate Israel so that people won't be asking, hey, what's happening with for the people in Israel? How is Agenda 2030 going in Israel? All the while, they're supposed to be happy with the cashless society and just accept the technological advancement of Palestine that wasn't able to prevent water pollution, but would probably be coming with all kinds of cure. Okay, for that. That might cause castration, neurological diseases, heart diseases, anomalies in cell development, benign and malign. Possible castration, we know the drill. And we also know who who will come up with the medicine. Meanwhile, thinking to put international forces there, that's a very elegant way of saying that's going to be an Epstein zone. And have people be too busy to talk about how terrible the genocide is, which is indeed terrible, okay? Kind of like the 6 million. It was so terrible that they killed all these 6 million Jews, and they said 20 million Russians died in these two wars. The currency was changed. We separated from the gold standard. They tell us that they're going to attach the digital currency to the gold standard. How many of you received the news that we've managed to produce gold from mercury? That means that the gold standard is now as good as fiat. In fact, we probably have less available trees to print paper money than we do to create gold out of mercury. At least it might get the mercury out of the salmons. Make salmons healthy. Make salmons healthy again. Um, so, by the way, I heard Israel was refusing to meet with the Norwegian regime for some I mean, if it is because of the sexual misconduct allegations, then I mean, it's quite satirical, but it's like it gives Norwegian a card. Other than that, I really don't know what did we have. What happened? Will I still have the Norwegian salmon in IKEA? Um, Now, that type of thing that is happening right now is really set to get people talking about, you know, in Thailand, they try to mitigate the what the Israelis are doing there. Okay, um, and everybody's like, "Oh, thank you for standing against genocide." They don't stand against genocide. They stand against Israelis coming to their land, buying real estate, and acting like it's their place. Of course, if they abolish child trafficking, Israel is to begin with wouldn't go right. But okay, that's But this is where everybody's busy talking about the genocide, while nobody's talking about the solutions that are one-to-one implementations of Agenda 2030. And we also get to see what the agenda is, that yes, it's actually happening, and how it happens. And that's not in the news. Now, the previous, I'm ascendant Pisces, Pluto is now going through my 12th house. Okay? My predecessors, Aquarian ascendants. Okay? they were spending around 15, 16 years of warning the world about Agenda 2030. Okay, they're retired. Pluto's in their first house. They really can't do it anymore. Okay, um, but this is where it's us Pisces ascendants that it's kind of like it's me, it's Ksenia more. Um, it's us that need to awaken the world to what's actually going on and not be satisfied with, oh, what a terrible thing that is happening in Gaza. Yes, no, not the genocide, Agenda 2030. The genocide was the preparation to that. Now, of course, that necessitates a digital ID, right? Because how will a Gazan be able to access clear water? They may get some compensations to pay the doctor that treats the hepatitis ABC, hepatitis IVF. And now you see, before COVID, I was doing a thesis in the body-mind question in the medicines, astrology. I was and I studied aromatherapy, which is holistic health practitioner. Um, and I talk about sexual sovereignty, and how not honoring sexual sovereignty is basically undermining any intelligence organization. So, CV, quite an interesting resume. I think the people that asked me when I was teaching English, why don't you work? Or no. And the people that try to get at my business to try to traffic me, which is like, you know, I cannot even do a regular job. Like, I mean, you want to get typhus? I'm like, that's and or to take from my life energy. If you hear a woman that divorced a billionaire and got a big compensation, so it's the butterfly effect of a woman that was not willing to have a baby to the Mormons. um, they do that by astral attack, which is rapey, and and then the billions just go to the divorcees. That billionaire has about like 14 wives, um, or ex-wives. So yeah. Now back to Gaza. It would be way more benefic for the world to see how Gaza fits into the 2030 agenda and start talking about that. I really love the conversations that are happening in Africa right now. Almost every country in Africa is talking about the surveillance cameras, the good example of Namibia, the impossible and unaffordable affordable housing in Kenya, the digital IDs. I think I even saw a digital IDs conversation. Local produce of the energy. I'm not so much in favor of fusion, and nuclear energy. Whether it powers a city or destroys it, it still emits radiation. Um, Now, here's the thing: Namibia did take from global agendas. It took the minimum basic income and got the country out of debt. Paid 7 billion, I think, in one go. And I shared the channel of Ngigi from Kenya, who gave Namibia as an example. The conversations that are coming from Palestine sound like Israel's startup nation pitches. It begins, continues, and ends with economic hitmanship and false flags. I'm not against technology, not against technology at all. But technology has to support the people. When the startup is basically another surveillance program, okay, under the guise of, and sometimes not even under the guise, then, Israel excelled in weapon industry, people invested in weapon industry, they're invested, fell upon them. And all of that without watching interviews of ritual abuse survivors, particularly people like Alandra, like Anneke Lucas. These people keep showing up, telling the most difficult, gruesome life experiences, not staying with the gruesome, but transmuting into the point of hope. How can one come out of that? What is that infused with? Then the least we can do is make some time to listen. Those who can, okay, those are recovering, that's triggering for them, is different, but those who can, the least we can do is listen. Because when each and every job is a job that somebody has to be an informant, and that being an informant is basically going through ritual torture, then at that phase, it really is challenging. We can talk about the genocide in Gaza, the civil war genocide in Congo and Sudan, Eritrea. But if we stay with that, we're really staying at the level of analysis of, oh no, genocide is terrible. Oops, there are another 7 genocides in the world. What do we do about that? Oh, we should condemn that as well. I mean, come on, the UN does that all the time. Nothing happens. Shmum. Okay? It was like, oh, why does it keep happening? Okay, what is this genocide doing? It's a depopulation to get the new population used to a new world order. What is that new that they want people to get used to? What's being implemented right now in Gaza? What's that shock doctrine? Wait a second. Do they do these things also to decide that are the Nazis as well? Well, duh. That's the point. That you'll be talking about the genocide and oh, these are the Nazis, these are the Nazis, these are the Nazis. Those will be secluded, isolated, prepared for another downfall, and then right there would be implemented solutions. And then everybody say, well, they brought it on themselves. They're the Nazis, they're the this, they're the that. Everybody should be looking at what is this thing that they would say that the Nazis or so-called Nazis brought upon themselves. Because that was by design the decades upon decades upon decades upon decades of indoctrination, of declining ability to demonstrate empathy, declining ability to act on corruption, declining ability to identify corruption. That was all accumulating to that moment. That whatever will happen in that place, everybody will say, well, they brought it upon themselves. To these people who should do so and so to that. Not knowing that this is just another social experiment to be extended to other countries if the other countries allow it. This is true to Palestine now, and it is absolutely true to Israel. There is a pandemic of kidnapped people while there are cameras at each street corner. And many more things. And that discourse is being shut every time by one controversy or another. The Iran war destroyed certain walls and certain departments in certain hospitals to transfer patients to the new hospitals. Supposedly holistic healing. What about patient sovereignty? We see what is happening in US. We see what is happening in Britain. There's actual femicide phenomena in freaking Netherlands. Like the most chill country in the world. Like this is like if there is femicide in Netherlands, it's really code orange for like the entire earth. Okay, when there was the war in Ukraine and in Gaza, there were these Amsterdam flats with the Ukrainian, Palestinian, Israeli, and pride flag. With some Russian vodka, of course, because you can't do without. That's Amsterdam. That's the country that has femicide right now. That's Thailand is forbidding Israelis from going to Thailand or on the process of doing so, but it's not in the process of abolishing the child trafficking within Thailand that attracts like moths to a flame all the particular Israelis that nobody likes. Okay? If they do that in Tel Aviv, they'd get messed up with someone just like them. And, and nobody likes that. Fulkin, what are Palestinians doing in Romania? They're trafficking Gazans to Romania. I mean, helping them. How did they manage to fly them to Romania? Like, and Israel doesn't see it. Doesn't. Is there an Epstein Island growing in Romania trafficked Palestine? Like, no, because El Al had um, not Khatis, almost it's El Al. It's never Khatis. Discount. That's our KLM. Um, they have a discount for the people that were, I don't know, serving in the rescue or whatnot, you know, to pick a destination. Romania is a favored destination by Israelis um, for those reasons. Okay, so meanwhile, people like Seizure Girl that are coming off of income-based housing are having to contend with people who criticize or try to go into her wallet as if it's actually their money. No, Falken, your taxes are going to classified projects that they send people to kill your dogs and ICE to, kill your wife and so on and so forth. That's your tax money. Okay? The life energy that they ritually took from the trafficked people, that's their money. It's also funneled through classified projects, but the income-based housing is them retrieving their life energy. But oh, it's a terrible thing that there's a genocide. It was a genocide. It's such a terrible thing, genocide. But these food stamps, they need to go. They really got to go. Okay. It's very convenient. All the people that made a watermelon emoji in 2023, 2024 are now struggling to combat ICE in their own village. So but some good news, black people are no longer, or supposed to be no longer, enslaved in Saudi Arabia. That's not the case in Dubai, and that's another channel shout out. Um, Let me see. There's a guy that's been to Dubai and saw that there are labor camps where he lived, somehow managed to come out alive and broadcast. Um, so yeah, the Maine Coons. Um, this is Ben of the Week on YouTube, talking about Dubai running on slaves, and his five-star hotel experience is quite fascinating to watch. Um, so Ben of the Week on YouTube. Um, I wish good health to Randa. I commented asking what can we do other than to support her channel, those that can support her channel. So it's Randa on YouTube. Um, and I think the little that can be done is to raise awareness to the fact that it already is our problem as a world. And no, it's not just the genocide, as weird as it sounds to say it in that sense. Those depopulation agendas, depopulation global agendas, um, are making the way. And of course, the fact that there was an Estonia, um, a technique that was done in Estonia and proved to be one of the most ineffective to drill oil from the area of the Dead Sea is going to be implemented. I used to live in Arad, that is quite adjacent, um, and I think everybody who watches my channels know why I had to leave, and how, and the fact that that quite polluting technique is going to be used to drill the oil is a telltale sign um, and yet again, those that think to cash in on that oil are entering a debt cult. Okay? And debt cults as debt cults, they would make them feel that they can get away with everything, give them a lot of drugs, have children that will be having handlers to have the mind control child, make it look comfortable to rape them, position them in front of the camera, and then have them extorted to do terrible war crimes, terrible crimes against humanity, and eventually, inevitably, be exposed just when they were thinking to cash in on that lifestyle.